The new salon changed everything, or at least that was what everybody in the community believed. From the moment the doors opened each morning until late in the evening, customers filled every corner of the shop. Women traveled from neighboring villages and towns after hearing stories about the young hairstylist whose fingers moved quickly and gently through even the most difficult hair. Some customers would walk past the other stylists and insist on waiting for me. "I want Binta to do my hair," they would say. "No one else touches my braids except that girl." Those words always made Mama B smile with pride. Whenever customers praised me, she would laugh and nod as though my talents belonged to her. "Your apprentice is gifted," one woman told her. "She works harder than many grown women," another customer added. "One day this girl will make you very rich." Mama B would beam with satisfaction, thanking them warmly. But the moment the customers left, her attitude changed completely. "Binta, sweep the floor. Binta, wash those towels. Binta, stop standing there doing nothing." No matter how much money I helped bring into the salon, I remained the same girl who slept on a thin mattress in the corner of the house. Nothing changed. Not my position. Not my treatment. Not my future. By the time I turned 20, exhaustion had become part of my life. 6 years. 6 long years. 6 years of waking before sunrise. 6 years of working until my back ached. 6 years without school. 6 years without friends. 6 years without being treated like a real member of the family. Sometimes after closing the salon, I would stand before the mirror and stare at my reflection. The young girl who arrived in Lagos at 14 was gone. The face looking back at me appeared much older than 20. The innocence had disappeared. The dreams had faded. In their place stood a tired young woman carrying burdens she never chose. One evening after work, I sat outside the salon counting the day's earnings. Business had been good. Very good. Mama B had gone to the market to buy supplies, leaving me behind to watch the shop. As I organized the money into neat piles, a familiar voice greeted me. "Binta." I looked up immediately. It was Mrs. Adebayo. She was one of our most respected customers. Everyone knew her name. She owned several clothing stores across the city and was considered one of the wealthiest women in the area. "Good evening, Ma," I greeted respectfully. "Good evening, my daughter." Instead of entering the salon, she sat beside me. There was something unusual about her expression. She seemed thoughtful. After a few moments of silence, she turned toward me. "I want to ask you something." "Yes, Ma." "How old are you?" 20. Her eyes widened. 20. I nodded. She stared at me carefully. For a moment she looked genuinely shocked. "I honestly thought you were much older." I forced a small smile. Most people did. Hard work had a way of stealing youth from a person's face. Mrs. Adebayo remained quiet for a few seconds before asking another question. "Do you own this salon together with your mother?" I nearly laughed. The idea sounded ridiculous. "No, Ma." She frowned. "Then what exactly is your position here?" "I work for Mama B." "You work for her?" "Yes, Ma." Her confusion deepened. "But you're the one doing most of the hairstyles." I lowered my eyes. "Yes, Ma." "And she pays you how much?" The question caught me completely off guard. For several moments, I couldn't answer. No customer had ever asked me that before. The truth felt embarrassing. Finally, I spoke quietly. "She takes care of me." Mrs. Adebayo's expression changed immediately. "That is not what I asked." I shifted uncomfortably. "She provides food and accommodation." The wealthy woman's eyes widened. "Binta, are you saying you do not receive a salary?" My throat tightened. I said nothing. I didn't need to. My silence told her everything. For the first time since I had known her, I saw genuine shock on her face. She looked at me as if she had just discovered something terrible. Before she could continue, Mama B returned carrying shopping bags. The conversation ended instantly. Mrs. Adebayo stood up and greeted her politely. But before leaving, she glanced back at me. There was concern in her eyes. Real concern. That night, her question refused to leave my mind. You don't receive a salary. I replayed those words again and again. The strange thing was that I had never truly thought about it before. I had accepted my situation as normal. But was it normal? I worked from dawn until night. I generated income. Customers specifically requested my services. Yet I owned nothing. No savings. No property. No independence. Not even the clothes on my body truly belonged to me. For the first time, the reality of my life began to trouble me deeply. Weeks later, another incident added fuel to the growing fire inside my heart. It was a busy Saturday. One of our busiest ever. Every chair in the salon was occupied. Women sat outside waiting patiently for their turn. The air buzzed with conversations, laughter, and the sounds of hairdryers. I was braiding a customer's hair when two young women entered. They looked around my age. Perhaps 21 or 22. Their clothes were beautiful. Their hairstyles were fashionable. But what caught my attention most was the happiness on their faces. As they waited, they chatted freely. One complained about a university assignment. The other groaned about an upcoming examination. They laughed together. Teased each other. Discussed future plans. I tried not to listen. But every word reminded me of everything I had lost. The education I never received. The friendships I never built. The youth I never enjoyed. Eventually one of them sat in my chair. As I began working on her hair, she smiled warmly. You're very talented. Thank you. Did you learn hairstyling here? Yes. That's impressive. Then she asked a simple question. Are you studying while working? My hands froze for a second. The question hit me harder than she could have imagined. No. She looked surprised. Oh. Just one word. Yet it carried so much pity that I wished she had remained silent. The rest of the appointment passed quietly. But after she left, her question stayed with me. For the first time in years, anger began growing inside my heart. Not anger toward those girls. Not anger toward the customers. Anger toward my situation. Anger toward the life that had been chosen for me. Anger toward everyone who had watched it happen. Especially Papa B. That night, I found him sitting outside beneath the fading evening sky. The years had not been kind to him. His hair had turned almost completely gray. The accident from years earlier had weakened him permanently. He looked smaller somehow. Older. Tired. When he saw me approaching, he smiled gently. My daughter. I sat beside him. For several moments neither of us spoke. The sounds of distant generators filled the silence. Finally, I gathered the courage to ask the question that had lived inside me for years. Papa. Yes, my daughter. Why didn't you fight for me? His smile disappeared immediately. I continued before fear could stop me. Why didn't you send me to school? His eyes fell to the ground. Why did you allow this life for me? The old man's face crumpled with pain. For several seconds, he remained silent. Then he released a deep sigh. I failed you. The honesty of his answer shocked me. No excuses. No lies. No blame. Just the truth. I failed you badly. Tears filled my eyes. Then why? His voice trembled. Because I was weak. I stared at him. He continued. I kept hoping things would get better. They never did. I kept telling myself tomorrow would be different. It wasn't. Tears gathered in his eyes. You suffered because of my mistakes. For the first time, I realized how much guilt he had carried over the years. He had been punishing himself long before I confronted him. But understanding his pain did not erase mine. The words escaped before I could stop them. I wanted a father. His shoulders slumped. I know. I needed someone to protect me. I know. You watched everything happen. This time he had no answer. Only silence. Painful silence. The kind that comes when a person knows they have no defense. For a long time we sat together beneath the darkening sky. Finally, he whispered the words I had waited years to hear. I'm sorry, Binta. And for the first time, I believed he truly meant it. Yet somehow, Papa B's apology was not enough. It is some of the pain, but it could not erase the past. Words were powerful, but they could not return 6 stolen years. They could not give me back the education I missed. They could not give me back the childhood I never had. They could not restore the dreams that had slowly faded while I spent my days serving other people. Life moved on, as it always did. Then the following month brought another challenge. One that changed everything. It happened on a warm evening when Bintu returned home from school. The moment she entered the compound, I noticed the excitement on her face. She was practically glowing. Mama B noticed it too. What happened? She asked eagerly. Bintu dropped her school bag and broke into a wide smile. Mama, I got admission. For a second there was complete silence. Then the entire house exploded with excitement. What? Mama B screamed so loudly that neighbors immediately began peeping over the fence. You got admission? Yes, Mama. Mama B grabbed her daughter and pulled her into a tight embrace. Papa B stood up smiling from ear to ear. Thank God. My daughter is going to university. Within minutes the news spread through the neighborhood. Neighbors began arriving one after another. Everyone wanted to congratulate Bintu. Some brought drinks. Others brought gifts. The compound became filled with laughter and celebration. Everyone was proud. Everyone was happy. And I stood quietly at the back of the crowd. Smiling. Clapping. Pretending my heart wasn't breaking. As I watched Bintu receive endless congratulations, a painful thought settled inside me. We were only 2 years apart. Just 2 years. Yet our lives looked completely different. She would go to university. She would attend lectures. She would make friends. She would discover who she wanted to become. She would build a future. And me. I would wake up before sunrise. Open the salon. Sweep floors. Wash towels. Braid hair until my fingers became numb. Then return home and do it all again. The difference between us felt unbearable. That night while everyone celebrated inside the house, I sat alone behind the compound beneath the mango tree. The distant sounds of laughter drifted toward me. I stared into the darkness. For the first time in years, bitterness filled my chest. Not because I hated Bintu. I didn't. She was innocent. But watching her receive opportunities that had been denied to me reopened wounds I had tried desperately to ignore. A few days later, something happened that pushed me even closer to my breaking point. I had gone to the kitchen to fetch water when I overheard Mama be speaking with one of her relatives. They were discussing Bintu's university admission. University fees are expensive these days, the relative said. What are you going to do? Mama B laughed confidently. I'm not worried. The woman sounded surprised. Why? Mama B's response froze me where I stood. Because Binta is here. The relative looked confused. What do you mean? Mama B chuckled. That girl works like 3 people combined. The women laughed. Customers come because of her. Business will increase. Whether she knows it or not, she will pay for Bintu's education. The 2 women burst into laughter. I stood completely motionless. My heart stopped. The water container nearly slipped from my hand. For several seconds, I couldn't breathe. It wasn't what she said. It was how casually she said it. As though my life belonged to her. As though my future was nothing more than a tool to finance her daughter's dreams. Something inside me finally broke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly. The same way a rope snaps after carrying too much weight for too long. That night sleep refused to come. I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Thinking. Remembering. Calculating. 6 years. 6 years of obedience. 6 years of sacrifice. 6 years of waiting. Waiting for someone to notice. Waiting for someone to care. Waiting for someone to rescue me. Nobody did. And sometime before dawn, a realization hit me with the force of a storm. Nobody was coming. Not Papa B. Not Mama B. Not anyone. If my life was going to change, I would have to change it myself. The next morning, I arrived at the salon earlier than usual. Customers came and went throughout the day. As I walked, I paid closer attention to the conversations around me. People discussed businesses, job opportunities, training programs, scholarships, new companies opening in the city. For the first time, I wasn't simply hearing their words. I was listening. Really listening. Searching for possibilities. Searching for a way out. Around noon, Mrs. Adebayo entered the salon. The moment she sat in my chair, she studied my face carefully. "You look troubled." I forced a smile. "I'm fine, Ma." She shook her head immediately. "No, you're not." For several minutes she remained silent while I worked on her hair. Then she suddenly asked a question that caught me completely off guard. "Binta, if someone gave you the chance to start over today, what would you do?" My hands froze. Nobody had asked me what I wanted in years. For a moment, I didn't know how to answer. Eventually, I spoke softly. "I would like my own life." Mrs. Adebayo looked at me through the mirror. "Then why don't you build one?" A bitter laugh escaped my lips. "It's not that simple, Ma." To my surprise, she smiled. "Sometimes it is." Then she reached into her handbag. Slowly, she removed the business card. She placed it on the table between us. I glanced down. "There is a new beauty training center opening in the city," she said. I nodded politely. Then she added words that made my heart stop. "They are looking for instructors." My fingers froze completely. "Instructors?" "Yes." She smiled warmly. "And I recommended you." For a moment I thought I had misunderstood her. "Me?" "Yes, you." My pulse quickened. "But I don't have certificates." "You have experience." "I didn't finish school." "That can be fixed." The confidence in her voice startled me. For years I had trained myself not to hope. Hope was dangerous. Hope often ended in disappointment. But as I stared at that small business card lying on the table, something long buried inside me began waking up. A dream. A possibility. A future. A life that belonged to me. Quickly, I slipped the card into my pocket before Mama B could notice. For the rest of the day, I kept touching it to make sure it was still there. Every time my fingers brushed against the card, my heart beat faster. Because for the first time since arriving in that house 6 years earlier, a door seemed to be opening. What I did not know was that walking through that door would demand a price far greater than I imagined. For the next 3 days, the card never left my possession. I hid it carefully inside the lining of my handbag where nobody could find it. Every morning before leaving for work, I checked to make sure it was still there. Every night before sleeping, I touched it again. The card represented something precious. Possibility. But possibility was dangerous in Mama B's house. The moment she discovered that I wanted something beyond her control, she would do everything possible to stop me. So I remained silent. I continued living exactly as before. I woke before sunrise. Swept the compound. Prepared breakfast. Opened the salon. Braided hair until my fingers ached. Smiled at customers. Pretended everything was normal. But inside me, nothing was normal anymore. For the first time, I could see a future beyond tomorrow. Then one afternoon, opportunity finally arrived. Mama B had gone out to purchase supplies. The salon was unusually quiet. Taking a deep breath, I borrowed a customer's phone. My hands trembled as I dialed the number printed on the card. The phone rang twice. Then a woman answered. "Good afternoon." "Good afternoon, Ma." My voice shook with nervousness. "I'm calling about the instructor position." Immediately, her tone changed. She sounded interested. "Your name?" "Binta." There was a brief silence. Then the woman spoke words I will never forget. "Are you the young stylist Mrs. Adebayo recommended?" My heart skipped. "Yes, Ma." The woman smiled through the phone. "We've been expecting your call." For several seconds, I could not speak. Expecting my call. Nobody had expected anything from me in years except work. And for the first time, I felt something beautiful. I felt seen. I felt valued. I felt like my life might finally be beginning. The woman on the phone continued speaking. "We would like to interview you." For a moment, I thought I had heard her incorrectly. "Interview me?" I asked quietly. "Yes," she replied warmly. "Mrs. Adebayo speaks very highly of you, and we'd like to meet you in person." My heart began racing. An interview. A real interview. Nobody had ever invited me for an interview before. I swallowed nervously. "When should I come, Ma?" She gave me a date. Saturday morning. 3 days away. After confirming the address, I thanked her repeatedly before ending the call. The moment the phone disconnected, I sat down heavily on a nearby chair. My hands were shaking. An interview. The word echoed inside my head. Part of me wanted to scream with excitement. Another part wanted to cry from fear. For the first time in years, an opportunity had appeared before me. A real opportunity. Not charity. Not pity. An actual chance to build something for myself. But as the excitement settled, reality quickly returned. How would I leave the house? How would I explain where I was going? Mama B questioned everything. Even a simple trip to the market required explanations. She monitored my movements carefully, as though she feared I might disappear one day. An interview in another part of Lagos would never be approved. Never. For the next 3 days, my mind became a battlefield. Every spare moment was spent thinking. Planning. Worrying. Imagining different scenarios. What if she discovered the truth? What if she refused to let me go? What if she followed me? What if I failed the interview? By Friday night, I finally reached a decision. I would go. No matter what. Even if it meant lying. The thought made me uncomfortable. Lying was not part of my nature. But then another thought entered my mind. Nobody had asked for my permission before taking 6 years of my life. Nobody had consulted me before deciding my future. Nobody had cared what I wanted. Why was I still asking for permission to chase my own dreams? Saturday morning arrived. I barely slept the previous night. After dressing, I approached Mama B carefully. "One of our regular customers needs home service for an event," I said. The lie tasted bitter inside my mouth. For a second, I feared she would become suspicious. Instead, her eyes lit up immediately. Home service meant extra money. "Good," she said. "Don't stay out too long." "I won't." My heart pounded. I grabbed my handbag and quickly left before she could ask more questions. The moment I stepped outside the compound, I felt both free and terrified. As the bus carried me toward the city, I stared through the window. My palms remained sweaty throughout the journey. The training center was located in a newer part of Lagos. A place completely different from the neighborhoods I knew. The roads were cleaner. The buildings looked modern. Everything seemed polished and professional. When I finally arrived, I stood across the street staring at the large building. For a moment, fear nearly defeated me. People walked confidently through the entrance. Men in neat suits. Women carrying laptops and handbags. Everyone looked educated. Successful. Important. Suddenly, I became painfully aware of myself. My simple dress. My worn-out sandals. My lack of education. The fact that I had never completed secondary school. What was I doing there? Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I didn't belong. Maybe people like me weren't meant for places like this. I considered turning around. Going home. Pretending none of this had happened. Then another memory appeared. A 14-year-old girl sleeping on a corridor floor. Crying herself to sleep. Feeling completely alone. I had survived that. I had survived 6 years of hardship. Surely I could survive one interview. Taking a deep breath, I crossed the road. As I approached the gate, a security guard smiled politely. "Good morning." I was surprised by his kindness. "Good morning," I replied softly. Inside, everything felt unfamiliar. The walls were bright and beautifully painted. Cool air flowed from air conditioners. Employees moved confidently through hallways carrying documents and laptops. Computers sat neatly on desks. Telephones rang occasionally. The entire place felt professional. For a moment, I felt like a stranger entering another world. A world that belonged to other people. Not me. But I kept walking. A receptionist welcomed me warmly. "Good morning. How may I help you?" I gave her my name. Immediately, she smiled. "Oh, yes. We've been expecting you." Again, those words surprised me. Expecting you. Nobody expected me anywhere except the salon. She asked me to wait briefly before escorting me to an office upstairs. My heart felt ready to burst through my chest. When the door opened, I saw 3 people seated behind a large table. A man and 2 women. All professionally dressed. All smiling politely. "Please sit down," one of them said. I obeyed nervously. The interview began. At first, the questions seemed simple. "How long have you been styling hair?" "Approximately 6 years." "What services do you specialize in?" I listed them. Braiding. Weaving. Hair treatment. Natural hairstyles. Protective styles. The interviewers nodded and took notes. Gradually, the questions became more detailed. "What do you do when a client complains about scalp irritation?" "How do you manage difficult customers?" "What products would you recommend for damaged hair?" "What techniques help retain hair growth?" "How many clients can you handle daily?" To my surprise, I knew most of the answers. Not because of school. Not because of certificates. Because of experience. For 6 years, I had practically lived inside a salon. I had worked on hundreds of clients. Different hair textures. Different conditions. Different personalities. I had learned through observation, through mistakes, through hard work. Knowledge I had never considered valuable suddenly became important. Several times, I noticed the interviewers exchanging impressed glances. Their reactions slowly boosted my confidence. The fear inside me began fading. By the middle of the interview, I found myself speaking naturally. By the end, I almost forgot I was nervous. One of the women smiled warmly. "You have remarkable practical knowledge." I lowered my head respectfully. "Thank you, Ma." She continued. "Did you receive formal training?" Immediately, I hesitated. The room became quiet. This was the moment I feared. I could lie. I could invent certificates. I could pretend. But something inside me refused. I had spent too much of my life hiding. This time, I wanted the truth. "No, Ma." The interviewers exchanged looks. "I learned through work." The older woman leaned forward slightly. "Tell us more." Carefully, I explained my background. Not everything. Just enough. I spoke about learning in a salon. About years of experience. About developing skills through practice. I avoided discussing the deepest parts of my pain. Still, they listened attentively. Nobody interrupted. Nobody judged. When I finished, the older woman remained silent for several moments. Then she spoke softly. "You've come a long way." Something about those words touched me deeply. For years, nobody had acknowledged how hard I had fought to survive. But she saw it. Somehow, she saw it. The interview ended shortly afterward. They thanked me for coming. I thanked them for the opportunity. Then I left. As I walked out of the building, I felt strangely lighter. Whether I got the position or not suddenly seemed less important. Something bigger had happened. For one entire hour, people had treated me differently. Not as a servant. Not as free labor. Not as someone's responsibility. They treated me like a professional. A skilled woman. A person with value. The feeling followed me throughout the journey home. For the first time in years, I felt proud of myself. Genuinely proud. But unfortunately, reality was waiting for me. The moment I entered the compound, I sensed trouble. The atmosphere felt wrong. The usual sounds were missing. Nobody greeted me. Nobody smiled. The compound was unusually quiet. Dangerously quiet. My stomach tightened. Then I saw Mama be standing near the doorway. Her arms were folded across her chest. Her face was hard. Cold. Angry. And in her hand was something that instantly drained the blood from my face. My handbag. The handbag where I had hidden the business card. At that moment, I knew one thing. Somehow, Mama B had discovered everything. The moment I stepped into the compound, I knew something was wrong. The atmosphere felt different. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Dangerously quiet. Usually at that time of day, I would hear the sounds of conversation, the clatter of dishes from the kitchen, or Bintu chatting with her friends. But that evening, everything seemed frozen. My eyes immediately landed on Mama B. She stood near the doorway waiting. Her arms were folded tightly across her chest. Her face was expressionless. Cold. Very cold. The sight made my stomach tighten. Slowly, I approached. Before I could greet her, she spoke. "Where were you?" Her voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that usually came before a storm. I forced myself to remain composed. "The home service," I replied. For a moment, she simply stared at me. Then she asked another question. "Which customer?" My pulse quickened immediately. Without thinking, I mentioned the name of one of our regular clients. The moment the words left my mouth, regret followed. A terrible realization struck me. That customer visited the salon frequently. Mama B knew her personally. She could easily confirm my story. Mama B slowly nodded. Interesting. A chill ran down my spine. Then she spoke again. I saw her today. My heart dropped. The world seemed to stop moving. Mama B took a step closer. Her eyes never left mine. She told me she never called you. Silence. A terrible, suffocating silence. For several seconds nobody spoke. I couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't even look up. Mama B's voice became sharper. You lied. I stared at the ground. My mouth felt dry. There was nothing I could say. Nothing that would save me now. She stepped even closer. Where did you go? I remained silent. Answer me. Her voice rose louder. By now, neighbors had started peeking through their windows and over their fences. I hated scenes. I hated being the center of attention. And Mama B knew it. She knew exactly how uncomfortable public confrontations made me. Where did you go? She demanded again. Finally, I whispered. An interview. The entire compound seemed to fall silent. Even the neighbors stopped pretending not to listen. Mama B blinked. An interview. Yes. Her eyes narrowed. What interview? I hesitated before answering. Then I explained. Not everything. Just enough. A training center. An opportunity. A recommendation. Nothing more. As she listened, her expression changed. First confusion. Then disbelief. Then anger. Deep anger. The kind of anger that made her entire face harden. You went looking for another job. The way she pronounced the word job made it sound like a crime. Like betrayal. Like an unforgivable offense. I remained silent. You. Her voice trembled with fury. After everything I've done for you. The statement almost made me laugh. Everything she'd done for me. The words echoed bitterly inside my head. 6 years of unpaid labor. 6 years without education. 6 years of sacrifice. Yet somehow she saw herself as my benefactor. Still, I said nothing. Years of experience had taught me that silence was often safer than honesty. Unfortunately, on that day, my silence only made her angrier. I fed you. She pointed at me. I housed you. Her voice grew louder. I trained you. Neighbors were openly watching now. Some stood outside their gates. Others pretended to sweep while listening carefully. And now you're trying to leave. At that moment, Papa B emerged from inside the house. Bintu followed behind him. Both looked alarmed. What is happening? Papa B asked. Mama B spun around and pointed directly at me. Ask your precious daughter. Papa B frowned. His eyes moved from Mama B to me. Confusion filled his face. I could barely meet his gaze. The argument continued. And continued. And continued. For nearly an hour. Mostly Mama B shouting. Mostly me standing quietly. Every accusation seemed louder than the last. She spoke about loyalty. Sacrifice. Gratitude. Respect. As if I owed her my entire future. As if I had no right to want more. By the time she finished, half the neighborhood knew my business. Finally, she folded her arms and delivered her judgment. You are not leaving. I stared at her. For a moment, I thought I had heard incorrectly. What? You heard me. Her voice was firm. Final. You are not leaving. I felt my heartbeat quicken. Mama. No. She cut me off immediately. You belong here. The words struck me harder than any slap. You belong here. Not work here. Not live here. Belong here. Like property. Like furniture. Like something owned. Something controlled. Something without a choice. For years, fear had kept me silent. For years, I had swallowed my opinions. My dreams. My frustrations. My anger. But something inside me had changed. The interview had shown me a different version of myself. A version that deserved dignity. A version that deserved freedom. And for the first time in my life, anger became stronger than fear. The words escaped before I could stop them. I don't belong to anyone. The compound froze. Everyone froze. Especially Mama B. Because in 6 years, I had never spoken to her like that. Not once. Not ever. Her eyes widened. Shock flashed across her face. What did you say? This time I looked directly at her. Slowly. Clearly. Carefully. I said I don't belong to anyone. The shock disappeared. Fury took its place. Pure fury. For a moment, she raised her hand. Instinctively, my body tensed. I thought she was going to slap me. The neighbors thought so too. Everyone held their breath. But the slap never came. Maybe because people were watching. Maybe because I was no longer the frightened 14-year-old she had once controlled. Or maybe because she saw something in my eyes. Something new. Something dangerous. Defiance. Whatever the reason, her hand slowly lowered. But the damage had already been done. A line had been crossed. And everyone knew it. Including her. That night, the house felt colder than ever. Nobody spoke to me during dinner. Nobody asked if I had eaten. Nobody acknowledged my presence. The silence was deliberate. Punishment. As I lay on my bed later that night, sleep refused to come. My mind replayed everything that had happened. The interview. The argument. The look on Mama B's face. The moment I finally stood up for myself. Around midnight, a soft knock sounded on my door. I sat up immediately. Who is it? It's me. Papa B. I opened the door. He entered quietly and closed it behind him. The old man looked exhausted. Older than I had ever seen him. His shoulders sagged beneath invisible weight. For several moments he simply stood there. Then he slowly sat on the edge of the bed. The room remained silent. Neither of us knew how to begin. Finally, he spoke. His voice was soft. Almost fragile. Can we talk? I nodded. For a long time he stared at the floor. Then he looked at me. There was sadness in his eyes. Regret. Pain. And something else. Fear. When he finally spoke, his words were barely above a whisper. Do you want to leave? The question hit me harder than anything Mama B had said all evening. Because unlike her accusations, this question came from the truth. And suddenly, every emotion I had buried for 6 years rushed to the surface at once. The loneliness. The disappointment. The exhaustion. The dreams I had sacrificed. The future I still wanted. My eyes filled with tears. And for the first time, I realized that answering that question might change my life forever. Because unlike everyone else in that house, Papa B wasn't asking with anger. He wasn't accusing me. He wasn't trying to control me. He wasn't demanding obedience. He was asking with sadness. A deep sadness that seemed to come from years of regret. The kind of sadness a parent carries when they realize they have failed a child they loved. I couldn't bear to look at him. My eyes drifted toward the floor. Fresh tears threatened to return. The room felt painfully quiet. Then he asked again. Softly. Carefully. Binta. I swallowed hard. Do you want to leave? The question lingered between us. For a moment, I considered lying. It would have been easier. Safer. Less painful. But I was tired of lies. Tired of pretending. Tired of carrying truths that nobody wanted to hear. I don't know, I whispered. Papa B studied my face. Then he shook his head gently. Yes, you do. His words pierced straight through me. Because he was right. I did know. I had known for a long time. Maybe not for days. Maybe not for weeks. Maybe for years. Slowly, I closed my eyes. The truth hurt more than I expected. When I finally spoke, my voice barely rose above a whisper. Yes. The single word seemed to echo through the room. For several moments, Papa B said nothing. He simply nodded slowly. As though my answer did not surprise him. As though he had expected it all along. Finally, he released a long sigh. I thought so. Silence settled between us once again. Outside, the distant sound of barking dogs drifted through the night air. Somewhere in the neighborhood, a generator hummed softly. Inside my room, neither of us moved. Neither of us spoke. Then Papa B surprised me. You should go. My head snapped upward. For a second, I thought I had misheard him. What? He looked directly at me. You heard me. I stared at him. Completely stunned. Unable to process his words. For years, I had imagined hearing those words. I had dreamed about them countless times. Dreamed of someone finally telling me I deserved more. Dreamed of someone finally choosing me. And now the words were actually being spoken. Yet somehow they felt impossible. You should go, he repeated quietly. My throat tightened. But Mama B. A sad smile appeared on his face. The kind of smile people wear when they have already accepted a difficult battle. Leave your mother to me. The moment those words left his mouth, something inside me broke. Not from pain. From relief. For years, I had stood alone. Fighting battles nobody else seemed willing to fight. Defending dreams nobody else cared about. Carrying burdens that should never have belonged to a child. But at that moment, for the first time in years, my father was standing beside me. Maybe too late. Maybe much too late. But he was standing beside me. And somehow, that mattered. A lot. Papa B reached slowly into his pocket. His movements were deliberate. Careful. Almost nervous. Then he pulled out a small bundle wrapped in an old handkerchief. Without saying anything, he placed it gently into my hand. I frowned in confusion. What is this? Open it. Slowly, I unfolded the cloth. Inside were several folded notes. Money. Real money. I stared at it in shock. Papa. Take it. My eyes widened. I can't. His voice immediately became firm. For the first time that night. Take it. I looked at the money again. Then back at him. My hands trembled. I had handled thousands of naira over the years. Counted customers' payments. Managed salon earnings. Deposited money into Mama B's accounts. But none of it had ever belonged to me. Nothing. Not 1 naira. This was different. This was mine. And somehow that realization made my chest ache. Papa B lowered his eyes. I've been saving it little by little. His voice shook slightly. Whenever I could. I looked at the small bundle again. It wasn't a fortune. It wouldn't change my life overnight. But it was more money than I had ever personally owned. More importantly, It represented something priceless. Love. Sacrifice. An effort. A father trying to make amends. My vision blurred with tears. Why? The question escaped before I could stop it. Papa B remained silent for several seconds. Then he looked away, unable to meet my eyes. When he finally spoke, his voice was filled with regret. Because I owe you more than this. The words hit harder than anything else. Because they were true. He did owe me more. Not money. Years. Protection. Guidance. A childhood. But hearing him acknowledge that truth somehow softened the wound I had carried for so long. Neither of us spoke. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was honest. Perhaps for the first time in our lives. Eventually, Papa B stood slowly from the bed. Age and pain had made his movement slower than before. As he walked toward the door, I noticed just how tired he looked. How much older he seemed. The years had not been kind to him either. Just before leaving, he stopped. His hand rested on the doorknob. For a moment, he remained facing away from me. Then he turned. Binta. Yes, Papa. His eyes met mine. And what I saw there nearly broke my heart. Pride. Regret. Love. All mixed together. Then he spoke words I would never forget. No matter what happens next. He paused. As though choosing each word carefully. Don't stop fighting for your life. The room fell silent. My throat tightened. I couldn't answer. I simply nodded. Papa B gave me one last smile. Then he quietly left the room. The door closed behind him. And suddenly I was alone. Completely alone. For a long time, I remained sitting on the bed. The small bundle of money resting in my hands. Tears rolled slowly down my cheeks. Not tears of sadness. Not entirely. They were tears born from years of pain. Years of longing. Years of waiting to matter. The night stretched on. I stared into the darkness. Thinking. Hoping. Dreaming. Wondering what the future might hold. For the first time in a very long time, the future didn't look like a prison. It looked uncertain. Scary. Complicated. But also full of possibilities. Still, fear remained. What would Mama B do? Would she allow me to leave? Would she try to stop me? Would the interview lead anywhere? Would I actually get the job? Questions filled my mind until long after midnight. Eventually, exhaustion pulled me into sleep. But the next morning, everything changed again. Just after sunrise, while I was sweeping the compound as usual, a loud knock echoed through the gate. A visitor had arrived. And the news they carried would alter the course of my life forever.